Hi, today is author of Spotlight. We're speaking with Zachary Delano Middleton. He's author of Running After Delano, and it's kind of a fictional account of some of the things that happened back in Orangeburg around the time of the Orangeburg massacre. So we'd like to welcome you to our studio and want to learn more about your book.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Mr. Abraham, for having me. I feel like Carolina Panorama has done some incredible work throughout South Carolina. I think about my own church, Greater Faith Baptist Church. We get the Carolina Panorama in so many different organizations and places in Orangeburg. And so I'm just thankful for what you guys do. Thank you for having me doing the Author Spotlight.
Okay. Can you go over your background and kind of talk about your why you decided to write this particular book?
Absolutely. My name, as Mr. Abraham just shared, is Zachary Delano Middleton. I tell everybody you can just call me Zach, but the reason why I put it in as my author name is I put it in as my author name because I want to pay tribute to Delano. My mom and my dad, they named me after him in that regard, and so I think that's a big part of it. Growing up in Orangeburg, every February 8th, or the week of the February 8th, one of the things that South Carolina State, and I'm sure Claflin has a connection point as well, is that they will honor the three young men who were killed during the Orangeburg massacre, and it'll be an opportunity to talk more about that. I often also talk about the unborn child of Louise Cawley, who would have been the fourth, but Henry Smith, Samuel Hammond, and Delano Middleton are the three that we think about when we think about the Orangeburg massacre. And so the reason why I wanted to write about it is because this was one of those stories that we didn't hear about a lot as kids. You know, we read The Watsons Go to Birmingham, 1963. There are books out like To Kill a Mockingbird. There are books out like Monday's Not Coming. You know, these newer young adult fiction books that talk about tough issues. But at the same time, I thought that this would have been an appropriate topic specifically for me personally. I have an idea to do 2 different series, but before I get into those series, I think I'd be remiss without talking about my own family history. Specifically, my dad. My dad actually used to share a room with Delano. So my dad was been 10 years old at the time when Delano was killed at 17, and so even though it's his uncle, their relationship would have functioned more like a big brother, little brother kind of relationship kind of thing. And so I thought it would be great to start with a conversation with him and then open up that conversation to about 20 plus residents of Orangeburg, people who were in the community during that time period, to hear what were some stories that highlighted Delano's personhood. When I think of specifically, even in this era right now, we talk about civil rights. A lot of times we'll see a hashtag, we'll see a picture. That picture doesn't encapsulate who that person was. And so what I wanted to do was to sit down and say, you know, what were some of the things that he liked? What were some of the things that he considered to be funny? What were some of the things that most people would not know? And so some of those things were the fact that, you know, he used to pull the plow. He was almost 6'4". A lot of people don't know his height. He played football, played basketball. He was, according to his best friend, Robert Caldwell, who also was a great athlete in his own right, was recruited by Kansas State. He would have been 6'4". He's a tall gentleman, and that may have been one of the reasons perhaps he was targeted. We don't know, but those are some elements of who he was and his personhood that I thought were very important. And I thought that also this next generation can look up to that and go, okay, this is what he would have aspired to be. Talking to the people that were close to him, you know, he had goals and wanted to, want their own property, and just those are the stories that never get told. And so I thought that this would have been a good opportunity to shine a spotlight on civil rights in general, connect the historic civil rights movement to what's going on right now. And I thought that this particular book would have been one of the ways to do that.
More details about the book.
For sure, absolutely. So what I did with the book, I wanted to focus with I call it the 6-month period that led up to his passing. And a lot of that was, I used a little artistic license in terms of the timeline, but all of the major events were based on interviews that I had with different people, 20 or 22 so people from Orangeburg or connected. And my thought process, I wanted to kind of have the balance between the gravity and the weight of what happened in the Orangeburg Massacre, and what were young people doing during that time period. What was their lives like? Even something as small as the fact that, when we think of kids playing, our whole concept with them playing is them on their apps and that sort of thing. When they played back in the day, they played jacks, they played marbles, they played outside, and so having that little piece in there as well. But I wanted to capture some of the major stories. So one of the major story that kids would take during this time period was the fact that they had a curfew. So one of the if you talk to anyone who's grew up in Orangeburg during this time period as a kid, they almost felt punished as a result of this particular incident because they had to go in. That's a very small fraction of the story, but it's very important because if you're a kid, you know that this particular protest makes you go inside. And so they also remember the fact that they had tanks that came through Orangeburg. We have some pictures of the tanks. The AP Associated Press gave us a good deal on some pictures that I put in the book. And so those are some of the major events. There was a particular character where he shared that his father was stopped by the police because he looked at a white woman the wrong way. What was that like? What was it like to grow up in the rural South where at any time you had to be very aware of your race, your heritage, your background, etc. I also put in my dad's last. A lot of what you're hearing in the stories are the people who are being interviewed, their last experience with Delano. So for my dad, one lasting memory was the fact that he was supposed to bring Delano some undergarments for a football game. And he was not able to do that. He got caught up playing, that sort of thing, and he missed bringing those undergarments to Delano. And so I wanted to. That's why that Running After Delano is threefold. Running After Delano is that particular incident, but also the fact that when I talked to Delano's best friend Robert Caldwell, and he was like, when he thought of my dad, he said, well, Alonzo was always running after us, which is a big thing. But then I wanted to look at it from a bigger perspective of what is mentorship. When you think about mentorship, you're literally running after the person, or you're trying to become like whoever that particular person that is doing the mentoring. And so I wanted to have that as the through line that connected everything in terms of mentorship. But there were some other instances and experiences that I wanted to tie in. And like I said, as a historical fiction, I also referred the reader to the actual real accounts of reading. Cecil Williams, Orangeburg, 1968. Cecil J. Williams, who also gave us his permission to use the photograph of Delano. This is a photograph of Delano. A lot of people have not seen this photograph. My dad used to keep it in his office. He had office. He and my mom had an insurance office for about 36 years, and he would keep that in his office. And so I wanted to kind of show people who Delano Middleton was, but also even show him kind of having fun. When we see Delano, a lot of times we see him I think it's like a school picture, that sort of thing, when that kind of encapsulates who he is, and I wanted to show him in a different light. And so Cecil J. Williams, Orangeburg, 1968, Outside the Box in Dixie is also one of his, a great book by him. The Orangeburg Massacre by Jack Bass and Jack Nelson. Also, there is an incredible book by Dr. Cleveland Sellers that is called The River of No Return, which talks about his autobiography. You have books like Professor William Hine had a book called South Carolina State University or South Carolina State College, a Jim Crow college in rural South Carolina or rural America is how it's framed. You have to look online to find it. But there's a lot of foundational reading that I did prior to even writing. But at the same time, I wanted to connect the dots between the historical and just the what young people were experiencing during that time period, and how we can connect that to young people of today.
Okay. So how can someone get a copy of the book?
Absolutely. So by the time this releases, we'll have our website up. But the first way that you would go is to the Amazon store, and you just go to Amazon and you put in the title "Running After Delano." It's $15 for the paperback. It's $8 for the ebook. And so 15% of the net proceeds will go to Orangeburg-based charities. We have three the charities that have been selected is Delano's Home Church, which is Warren Chapel Baptist Church, and it's equal amount to each one. Warren Chapel, there's his graduating senior class 1969, and Boys and Girls Club of America. And so those will be 15% of the net proceeds after taxes, that sort of thing, will go there. This is a copy of the company that I recently started called Grace to Cultivate, and we should have our website up very soon. It's www.gracetocultivate.com. If you want to get in contact with me personally, either send an email to Zach@gracetocultivate.com or help@gracetocultivate.com, and we'll have someone will communicate and connect with you shortly.
Okay, do you have any like book signings or anything, or any of this coming up?
Well, right now during the pandemic, we're just trying to kind of play it by ear. I can foresee doing a Facebook watch party. We're also going to do a lot of digital engagement, social media engagement, and so we're going to launch our digital brand June 19th, and I have two podcasts that I'm working on. One is called Imagine Exposure. We're going to connect with a lot of different professionals in the area, and another one called Realer Than Fiction, where we'll do a deep dive on the book, and we'll talk to some of the people who are helpful and influential in getting it started. But Grace to Cultivate, which is the name of our brand and my business, and that's how we'll get it going. Yep.
Okay. Well, we wish you great luck in the future, and everybody go around and get a copy of the book. And we'd like thank you for coming to the studio today. So
thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir.